Hello and welcome to the first edition of Around the Valley for the 2025-2026 season. I'm super excited to be back. I know a whole bunch of you are excited we're back. We've got questions throughout the last few months. Hey, when are you guys coming back? You guys are coming back. Well, wait no more. We back. Joining me as always, Kenny Hodges, Kaylee Harden. You guys, how are you doing?
I've been great. It's been a long off season. I'm really excited to get back to it.
Same here. Listen, you know how it goes. We get into August, it's time. We jump right back into football. It's our most popular time of the year. It's our favorite time of the year. There's so much going on. There's smack talking back and forth. There's coaches back and forth. There's player movement. There's all sort of things that happen as we jump into the season. We have so many things to talk about. We talk about the Kings. Are they still the Kings? We talk about the East Valley, the West Valley. We talk about everything in between. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this thing. When we had some good action come right out of week 0, we had some intriguing things we need to kind of touch base on. And we had some interesting score lines to kind of talk about coming out of week 0. So let's go right through them. Let's roll right through the results from week 0, starting with the big one on Thursday night, our first inter-valley matchup. To kick things off, to kick the season off, we had Granada taking on NoHo. Granada puts up a big 50-16 final against the North Hollywood Huskies, the defending East Valley champs, to put their first dub up of the season. Also, rolling right into Friday night scores, Jefferson came in to Reseda, 38-zip shutout over Reseda. Monroe, maybe the first big eye opener of the season coming in right into week 0. Monroe puts up a 25-24 victory over Chatsworth to open up the season. Canoga, that young Canoga team that's building, they took on Fulton on Friday night, and they posted a shutout 20-zip over Canoga. Elko had a big one on their opener against Knight, 34-zip shutout for the Elko Royals. Probably the game of the season when all is said and done because of just how many points were scored. Kennedy in their home opener hosting Eagle Rock, two teams with big designs on doing big things this year. A 59-56 back and forth slugfest. Diego Montes went absolutely ape. We knew he was the best player in the Valley, or one of the best players in the Valley or in the city, and he absolutely showed it. Kennedy pulls out a victory over Eagle Rock, 59-56 there. We'll talk a little bit about that. Arleta goes on the road, gets revenge for their loss from last season. They go on the road to Westchester, another big matchup with two teams that were D1 Dreams. They pull out a 14-12 win over Westchester. Santee beat Poly 40-24. Panorama went on the road to Chavez, and they won 20-14. Cleveland went on the road to Harvard Westlake. Lost their quarterback early. They fought valiantly. Scoreline is not really indicative of what that game was, but Harvard Westlake pulls out a 21-zip shutout over Cleveland. Moving on to Grant, 45-zip. They got shut out by Wilson to open the season. Another interesting result, Taft hosting Nordhoff. They win 20-17 to put up their first victory of the season. Marquez beat Verdugo 47-6. Birmingham. Kaylee was at this one. We have reporters on the scene. Birmingham gets revenge for their opening season loss last year. They host Hart this time. 24-14 victory. Birmingham puts up their first W of the season, making a little bit of a statement about where they're going to be this year. Then on to Saturday, the final game of the Valley of for us. San Fernando went on the road to play Trinity Classical. They played a game at COC, and they won a slugfest 7-6 over Trinity Classical. So those are the scores coming out of week 0. And now moving on to a little bit of our reaction. So I'll ask you guys, I'll open the floor. Of all the games that we kind of saw in week 0, I'll start with you, Kaylee. What results surprised you the most from the games that you saw or you paid attention to this weekend?
I can't really say that I was surprised who won this game, but I was surprised. I was very surprised by the score, and that was the Granada NoHo game. We've been watching NoHo just climb in terms of their talent and success the last couple years, and they've last season and the season before, they were very consistent in proving that they are going to be a powerhouse of the Valley and a force to be reckoned with. On the alternative side of that, we've seen like a little bit of a step back from Granada since they had lost they had lost a couple of those Stanleys. And so we've seen less of a consistent performance and less power coming out of that program. However, this year they did get they have a new quarterback. So I was surprised at how quickly it all came together for them and how they were really able to, I don't want to say stomp out because there were a couple scores by NoHo. However, the gap in that score was insane to me. I really would have thought that NoHo would have put up more of a fight. I thought that Granada would need a little bit more time getting all the kinks out of the chain, so to speak, and really making that team blend together. But no, they hit the ground running, and a pleasant surprise to see. And I hope NoHo is able to rebound fast because we like seeing them win too.
I mean, if we're talking events, it's airfare. He has opened his playbook a little bit, like last year when he had Arlauskas under center. But to open up that quickly against Granada and air the ball out and actually show that, we can be a little more balanced was definitely a bit of an eye opener. But for me, it's the Monroe and Canoga score lines. Those two tell us that, okay, we need to definitely pay closer attention. If there's anything that we've known is the Canoga program has been building for a while, and they might have gotten to that point. And the other one is the last time Monroe was this senior heavy and won their first game, they ran roughshod over the East Valley. So those are the ones that got me looking.
You know what? I think I kind of reside there with both of you guys a little bit. It's one of those things, and I think it was something I wrote this week, where it's like, the names and the numbers change, but apparently with this Granada program, the way that Coach Bucky Brooks has it running, apparently parts are just interchangeable, and they just gonna run it down your throat. Like I said, it just looks a little bit different. The guys are a little bit fair skinned and just a little bit tinier than the Stanleys were. But if you didn't know any better and you squint real hard, it would look like the Stanleys running up and down the field the way they were playing against North Hollywood. And to give North Hollywood a little bit of a leeway, it was hot. That's a tough offense to have to just kind of defend over and over and over again, because you know what they're going to do. They're going to just run that ball down your throat, and they're going to keep hammering you until they break something. That's just the Granada way. They get up, as we heard in the interviews. Hey, they get up and they practice at 6 a.m. for a reason. They practice doing the things that nobody else wants to do. So for week one in the heat, to go out there and try to defend that offense, that's going to be tough. And you could see that as that game wore down, they kind of sort of wore down a little bit. Same thing in the East Valley. The reason why I thought this was one of those reasons why I thought the East Valley could be a little bit wide open, because when you look at some of these rosters, you look at Arleta, which was also a little bit of a surprise. I didn't think they were going to go on the road and beat Westchester, and they did, which kind of opens eyes a little bit. But you look at the East Valley and some of these teams, Monroe, Arleta, North Hollywood, because you have so many teams that are senior heavy, I think it's just going to be a gauntlet with some of these 3 or 4 teams at the top just kind of beating each other up. And then one other thing I'll add about Canoga is Canoga kind of reminds me of that Monroe team from a couple of years ago, from the standpoint of they played a bunch of guys young. They got their butts kicked the last couple of years when they graduated their last crop of really good seniors. And now you got young players with experience who don't care, who still know they're not supposed to beat Kennedy. They're not supposed to beat Panorama. They're not supposed to be playing with the Silmars, but they got experience on the varsity level. So they're going to go out there and we still got to put pads on and roll out. So, that was a little surprising, but overall, I'd like the fact balance. And maybe the most surprising thing is, to me, I know Diego Montez has a lot on his shoulders in terms of carrying that team, but for him to go out there, account for 7 touchdowns against an Eagle Rock team that just kept matching them score for score for score, and because he got the ball last, he still won that game. Maybe this is the best player in the city. I don't know, but time will tell. But let's move on to some of the surprising, talking about surprising things, maybe some things that kind of caught our eye a little bit where like, maybe there might be some red flags there. There are three teams in particular I want to kind of get you guys' opinions on. And we'll call this segment the panic button. Are we going to push the panic button after 1 week with what we saw from these three particular teams? And that's Cleveland, North Hollywood, and Grant. Unfortunately, we saw the score line from that game. North Hollywood got ran out of the building a little bit. And Cleveland, not that they play bad, they actually played pretty decently against Harvard Westlake. But as we found out, they lost their quarterback, their starting quarterback, their leader is not going to be there for like 8 weeks, and they have a tough schedule. So are we going to push the panic button on any or all of those teams? I'll start with you, Arshavir. Are you ready to push the panic button on any of those teams?
I had an interaction with the coaching staff, and as painful as it is to see your starter and your leader and your captain go down, this is a great learning opportunity for the young man who takes over under center. Now he's got a full week of first team reps coming up. Even if this program doesn't go, let's say 6-4, right? If they do a little worse than that, I don't think there's any reason to panic. You're looking at it right now, it's early. This kid's going to learn. Team's going to rally around him. I have a lot of confidence in what this coaching staff has built. And speaking of confidence in what a coaching staff has built, we go to North Hollywood. Do not underestimate them. They will bounce back. This was a tough loss against a coaching staff that wanted revenge, even if the players necessarily were newer, right? It was a statement victory for Granada, not a statement loss for North Hollywood, if you ask me. They're going to continue to gel. They're going to put this together. I think I stand on what I said in our roundtable, right? With all these seniors and all these people coming back and fair running the ship, this to me is still the team to beat, especially in the East Valley. And Grant, not so much. I mean, they've been very, very Jekyll and Hyde over the last. We're going into our 4th year as a publication. They've been very Jekyll and Hyde the entire time. So I expect Jekyll and Hyde more or less, especially early in the season. So I'm not about to hit a panic button. If they get blown out in consecutive weeks, then we'll have a conversation. But I have faith in what this staff does in preparing these kids. I believe they will bounce back. So that's where we're at.
What say you, Kaylee? Cleveland, NoHo, Grant, you ready to push the panic button on any of those teams, or it's still too early?
I agree with Arshavir. I'm not ready to push the panic button on anybody yet. I think Cleveland, the gap in that score wasn't really, even like 3 scores isn't, I think, a reason to completely push a panic button yet. And I wasn't there, but from what I've heard, the play was actually a lot more even than the score even represents. So definitely not pushing the panic button on Cleveland yet. I couldn't have said it better myself, the way that Arshavir described that the game and final scoreline between NoHo and Granada is a significant win for Granada. It's not a significant loss for NoHo. And I don't think that it's going to define them as a team. And I think we're still going to see the amazing effort and success that we've seen from them the past few years. I'm pretty confident in them still. As far as Grant goes, I don't think that there is a panic button to push with Grant, because I don't think there's a ton of consistency to expect out of this team. Like Arshavir said, we've been doing this for 4 years now, and Grant isn't typically a shining star in the first few weeks of the season. So it takes them a little bit Takes them a little bit longer to get going, and I mean, I'm sure they'll get there, and they're going to have wins this season, but this was just not going to be one of them.
Yeah, I think I'm there too. I think pushing the panic button seems a little bit harsh. Hey, listen, I got to ask the question for content. Listen, that's just what we got to do is sports reporters. You got to ask the questions, right? But I think I'm right there with you guys. Grant, like I said, it's a constant juggling act with this team. They could very well go on the road to Los Angeles this week and put the hammer on that team just because this is just kind of what they do. I still believe in Carson Wentz. I still believe in that offense. I think they're going to be just fine. It's just going to be a lot of up and down. I wanted to see them have a better effort week one because, like I said, I wanted to come in here and talk about how crazy I think the East Valley is going to be. But, they got a chance to get it together. Same thing with North Hollywood. I think the thing like Arshavir kind of hit on before, and I was texting him watching the game too myself, was it was really interesting to see them throwing the ball the way they were because I'm like, a North Hollywood team with the way they're coached, but also with some balance, that could be dangerous. That could be something that they need because you lost Omar Muhammad. You lost some of those road graders they had last year. It's not the worst thing in the world if they're going to have more of a balance, more of a finesse sort of offense to kind of go with the way that they play. I think that gives them a little bit more leeway in terms of how they can attack teams on a week-to-week basis. So that was good to see. Like I said, in that heat, going against that team, I'm kind of willing. I'm with Kaylee. I'm ready to throw that scoreline out for them and put more of that on. That was good for Granada for themselves to see that they could still play the way they've played in past years when they had the Stanleys there. And in terms of Cleveland, I'm not going to push the panic button, but I'm going to push the pause for concern button only because you play in the West Valley. You got to score points, especially by the time we get the league. You can't win games if you can't score points. You have no chance of beating, even if Birmingham has come back a step. Like I said, they got Thanos at quarterback. He's going to run some people over. He's going to score. He's going to score points himself. You got to be able to score in this league. Are they going to have some difficulties moving the ball like they did in this game because they lost their quarterback? We know defensively they're going to be fine. Literally, that game came down to 4 plays where there was some miscommunication in the secondary and they got hit with some deep throws, and then Harbor Westlake was able to finish a couple of those drives. You take away those plays, these teams played dead even for 92% of the game. It was just those handful of plays were the difference in the scoreline. So no, I'm not necessarily going to push the panic, but hopefully Cleveland can kind of find some consistency with this kid coming in now and having to take all the first team reps. Well, we'll wrap up week 0 there. Let's look ahead to week 1 because this train is going to keep on rolling. And we got some notable matchups on the schedule. Grant's on the road at Los Angeles. Monroe and Taft all of a sudden now is a game that maybe we didn't think had that sort of intrigue when we first looked at the schedule. Now has got some juice to it with both of those teams winning in week 0. Granada begins that gauntlet that we've talked about with high-ranked city teams. They go on the road to Venice. That's a big one. Canoga tries to go 2-0 at Hollywood. Chavez and San Fernando is always a fist fight when those two teams play against each other. Arleta at Cleveland has a lot of intrigue. I didn't know if I was giving Arleta a big chance to win that game before, but now that seems like it might be a little bit more balanced now. And then you look at some of the games on Friday night with St. Bonaventure coming in to play Birmingham and Elko going on the road to play Heritage. So let's look at with everything that's on the schedule. What matchup intrigues you guys the most this weekend? We'll start with you, Kaylee. What matchup has your eye?
I'm really intrigued to see what happens at Monroe and Taft. Like you said, I don't think that it's something that we really caught our eye before, but given how they both performed this past week and both the score lines they were able to produce, I'm really interested to see how that game turns out and how their play styles end up showing up on the scoreboard.
One that we haven't touched on yet. Van Nuys at Jefferson. Jefferson beat Chatsworth. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. No, they beat another.
They beat Reseda.
They beat Reseda. That's right. And Van Nuys didn't play week 0. They won via forfeit. So this is a program coming off the heels of last year, and this is their first game of the season against the team coming off a win. Granted, it's a Reseda that's rebuilding again, but you can't discount wins. You can only play who's in front of you. So that's probably the one internally that kind of has me like, I'm really intrigued about that one.
Yeah, I you know what? I kind of agree with both of you. That Monroe Taft game, that's down the street from me. That might be one that your boy might grab my son and creep down and go get eyes on those teams. Also, that Van Nuys Jefferson could be a sleeper for a lot of points put up, because I watched that Jefferson Reseda game, and they like to throw the ball, and we know that's what Van Nuys' calling card is. They like chucking the ball all over the field too. So that could be another one of those 50, 60, 70 combined points on the scoreboard type games where his two teams are going up and down the field. But I think for me, I would say that the game that has a lot of intrigue for me is that Friday night game. 2 games on Friday night. The Elko Heritage game, because I think that's a good litmus test for exactly where Elko is. Knight was not the toughest Southern Section opponent, but it was a good way to get the season rolling. But they're going to get a challenge going on the road to go play that Heritage Christian team. And that Birmingham game with St. Bonaventure is also an interesting litmus test from the standpoint of, I'm familiar with that St. Bonaventure team because I've seen them play a lot. My kid goes to St. Jen's. I'm familiar with the St. Jen's program. That's one of St. Genevieve's rivals. That's a good team. That's a team that I would say is better than Hart, but not a team that's impossible to play against, not with Birmingham's talent. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can sort of build on that second half, because that first half, Hawkins was a little bit shaky. He missed some throws. He had some guys open. He's got a big arm. There were some throws that I felt like, man, if he could just take a little bit off and let those speedy receivers run under. But I'll tell you what he does better than anybody else in the Valley right now, which is when he takes off running up the middle, that linebacker and safety is going to have to make some business decisions, because there was a kid he hit in the second quarter. He ain't want no smoke the rest of the game. That kid wanted no parts of that big old quarterback rumbling down the middle, running people over. So it's interesting to see how he's developed. This is going to be his first big test to me of his senior year in terms of a defense that is going to be prepared or better apt to deal with him running the ball as well as throwing. He's probably going to have to make more plays with his arms to win this game as opposed to running against St. Bonnie's. So those are matchups that we are intrigued by. But I can't let you guys get out of here without holding feet to the fire. I got a couple of games, so some quick predictions. We'll see how you guys are feeling about some of these matchups going in. And obviously some of them are road tests for these teams. So we're not necessarily talking about games that we will necessarily be covering, because couple of these teams, or one of them at least, is on the road. But I just want to see how you guys feel. So let's start with Kennedy San Pedro. Obviously, Kennedy is scheduled like a team that wants to do big things this year. And this isn't one of those chances for them to kind of show, hey, yeah, you saw all the weapons on full display. Now can we go on the road and get it done against a team that's a perennial open team every year on the road at San Pedro? So I'll ask you guys, Kennedy San Pedro, who you got winning that game? I won't ask for any scores, just picking the game straight up. Do you think Kennedy can go on the road and do it, or do you think this might be one of those that's kind of tough on a short week to have to come back and play? What do you guys think?
I think it is tough. This is definitely going to be a tough game for Kennedy, but I actually do think that they can pull it off, and I hope that they pull it off. So I want to see Kennedy winning that game, but they're definitely starting from an underdog standpoint.
We've got our Chappelle. Who you think is winning that game? You think Kennedy's pulling it off, or you think this might be a little bit much to chew on this early in the season?
I gotta say, from San Pedro's week 0 performance, that kind of sealed it for me. I think Kennedy takes it. It could be another shootout like Eagle Rock. But yeah, I'm tough one, but Kennedy.
Yeah, I think I'm there too. When you have a quarterback that goes 26 for 38 for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 17 carries, another $178, 4 touchdowns. He completed passes to 7 different receivers in that game. I think I'm gonna put my money on that kid going on the road and being able to beat anybody. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna say Kennedy's gonna win that game. It'll probably be close. San Pedro is nothing to sneeze at, but I think they can go on the road. All right, Monroe Taft. Obviously, this is a game that's got a little juice now. We saw what Cordillo and those boys did against Chatsworth. A little bit unexpected, but maybe should be more expected because of how many seniors, rugged dudes they running out there. But this Taft program, quiet as kept, they have been doing the right things the last few years, even though they had a coaching change. But outside of the head coach leaving, a lot of that staff stayed in place, and you're seeing some continuity sort of being built at Taft a little bit. So is this a game in which Monroe can go on the road and beat this team, or is Taft going to win at home? What do you got, Osher?
Honestly, with Randolph entering his second year and having that continuity, my money is there. It's not a knock on what Monroe does, right? And you got to say Pops is probably looking for revenge after losing to Taft in the playoffs a couple years ago. But I'm going to say this is Monroe's. I meant to say this is Taft's.
Okay, what you got, Kaylee? Monroe, Taft, hold your feet to the fire. Who's winning that game?
I disagree. I think Monroe takes Taft in their own house, and I think the score will be close. Though I think this is going to be a close one, but I feel like Monroe showed us that they're ready to rumble, and I don't know if Taft is ready to hold him off just yet.
Arleta, Cleveland. This is the last one. I kind of hold your feet to the fire. This is a little preview that we're giving out for people. Obviously, Arleta went on the road, won a big game, feeling good. Now they got to roll into Cleveland, which is never an easy place to play. Yes, Cleveland lost at Harvard-Westlake, but that could kind of be fool's gold a little bit for a team thinking that because they lost that game to a Southern Section team that is sweet when you're coming into that building, which we know is never sweet going in to play Cleveland at home. That place is always rocking. It's tough to play there. Arleta, can they pull it out? Who you got winning that game? We'll start with you, Kaylee. Who you got?
I think Cleveland is thirsty to put some points on the board, and I think that they got something to prove this week. So I'm taking Cleveland for this one, and I also have my Cleveland Brown sweatshirt on, so I can't talk bad about Cleveland when I got this shirt on.
I hear that. All right, who you got, Arleta? Arleta? Can Arleta go in there and get the 2-0, or is Cleveland going to bounce back and get that first win?
This is tough in the fields, right? The fields have me leaning one way, but ultimately I'm going to say I think Arleta goes in and takes it, comes out 2-0.
There you go. Listen, that's just a little piece of what we kind of started doing this year. Make sure you go to valleysportstelegram.com. Us as senior staff, we're going to pick every game from this week, and we're going to get a little bit more in depth on some questions that are going into week one. So make sure you go to valleysportstelegram.com and check that out. We're going to keep a running tally all year. We're going to see who is the best of the best expert picks. You'll be able to go down there and see. We're going to pick every game from our Valley teams in the city section every week. It's a new thing we started doing. Make sure you go to Valley Sports Telegram and check that out. And listen, we're glad you guys are back. We're glad you guys are coming. You guys are rocking with us, and we appreciate the support. Every year we do this thing, it keeps growing, it keeps getting bigger. And we're going to bring you more and more content as the season goes along. Make sure you go on our YouTube, where we post these podcasts. We'll also have post-game interviews. We'll also have shorts. We'll have all kinds of things that we have in store for you guys to share. We got content on the website. Make sure you go check that out. And make sure you're paying attention to our socials. Our social media team, led by Kaylee, we do a lot of good stuff over there. Our social media is incredible. Make sure you're checking out everything we do. Listen, this is always a labor of love for us, and we love that it continues to grow, and you guys are appreciating everything that we're doing, and we want to reciprocate by continuing to bring content for our kids in the Valley like no one else is doing. So with that being said, we're going to sign off from here. For myself, Kenny Hodges, for Arshavir Sarian, and Kaylee Harden. We'll check you guys next week. Peace.
But the people want a Kenny prediction. We're not going to get a Kenny prediction?
No. Maybe next week. I just wanted to dribble it out there a little bit and just maybe get, if the people want to see my predictions, Let's let them go to the website when we have all of them up. Also, I kind of forgot to throw mine in there, but that's all right.